Evening, everyone. It's Brian with the Chronicler's Tale. Just sort of doing a last minute, hey, thoughts in my mind. Figured I'd do a live video. I like doing live better than I do like doing recorded because at least it'll get categorized in the lives on YouTube and the channel page. So I've been thinking about cultural decay. There's a channel I follow for movie reviews. Scottish guy goes by the handle of Critical Drinker, and he's got a decent handle on cinema and movie productions. And it's odd because he shared a clip because every once a week they do like a roundtable discussion where there's like 4 or 5 people. And this week the clip he shared to us talking about James Bond, the James Bond franchise, and how I guess Amazon is taking over the rights for it. And if some of the stuff that's been bandied about is correct, what Amazon might do is what's been done with a lot of worlds, franchises like Star Wars. I don't know if you could say Star Trek falls into there, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, numerous others, Marvel, which is we're going to monetize the hell out of this series, out of this franchise. We'll make TV series, we'll make spin-off movies, spin-off series. And what we've seen with things like that, Star Wars, the Indiana Jones franchise, is that they've essentially been milked and thrown out and ruined. And I think the writing, too, part of what ruins it is that it coincides with the mentality and mindset of the people who write the scripts for these shows. My coworker was saying that Ethan Hawke's son, I forget what his name is, but apparently, if what he said is correct, one of the criteria that factors in to who to cast for a movie or a series is how many online followers on a given platform someone might have. As if that's going to be the miracle factor in this equation that makes something successful. And this whole time I thought it was, wow, if you make something that's actually likable and that people like to watch, that'll sell itself and make it popular. But what do I know? I'm not a writer. I'm just a person who consumes the content. And it amazes me how in the last 10 years, but especially 5, actually, you could take all of culture in the last 15 years and how we've seen a degradation in the quality of everything. We've seen it in music, like mainstream pop music, and how it's all just turning into gnarled trash and basically the same, and how one band's not much different from another. There's a few nuances. Or with cinema and how there really haven't been that many good movies. It's just been on a decline where now, it's the point where, like, for example, with Star Wars, I don't want to watch Star Wars. If some new Star Wars comes out, I don't care. They've so many series have been ruined by poor production, poor script, poor execution. Acting can be up in the air. That's just when something like Star Wars or Star Trek or Indiana Jones, a new movie is coming out. This is going back in a little bit of history, back in the pre-internet days. There was excitement. There was a buzz. Oh my God, the next Star Wars movie is going to come out. I can't wait for it. And there was anticipation. And now it's to the point where, wait, there was another Star Wars series? It's just been, they've taken the interest, they've taken that energy that a movie can generate and diluted it down to nothing. And it doesn't help that we've had absolutely just horrible script writing where you have ideologues who were living in alternative reality who support the victimhood Olympics of Western that had been a thing in Western society that don't want to acknowledge, and in that frame of mind, they don't acknowledge the normal human condition and basic themes like the hero's journey or any other narratives that human storytelling has had for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And I look at all this stuff and I just think about, or another one, I was watching a video on the channel Perfect Union. They're talking about why furniture is such garbage. And I guess there's the term fast furniture, and how in the pursuit of getting business and earning a buck, we've gone from, at least in the West, at least in the US, but also to whatever degrees globally, we've gone from making things by hand, solid wood tables, solid wood furniture, something that will last for decades, to fast furniture that's made with particle board that you have to be careful with if you want it to last. I think about drawers and dressers like my wife and I years ago when we moved in together. We ended up getting, she had some old IKEA dressers, and these things were dense, heavy wood. I mean, her dresser was heavy, and it had like a laminate on the outside. And the color scheme didn't fit because this is when, I can't remember if this is when we moved into our apartment or under our condo, but we ended up, might have been the condo, and we ended up getting something that, with our combined incomes, we could afford to get some new furniture. So I ended up just going with IKEA because we didn't need anything fancy. And also too, just something that just basically works, doesn't cost a lot. We're not picky. We're not going to be using it other than the drawer. But the thing is, we're constantly, in the course of a year, having to do maintenance on that thing, tightening the little side screws so that it doesn't pop open. You shouldn't, that's not normal. That should not be accepted as normal. You shouldn't have to do that for furniture. Furniture is, you buy the thing and it opens and closes. The drawers open and close. You put the clothes in, you take the clothes out. You put whatever in, you take whatever out. You shouldn't be doing maintenance, period. Same thing with the couch. Same thing with the table. Same thing with chairs. You might have to tighten the fastening screws if you're sitting in a chair, but it's still solid wood and you're good to go. Well, we're not there. Everything's gotten cheapened. Fast clothing, fast fashion, where the quality of the material is garbage. I've got an old, and I've seen that, where the quality of shirts and garments, they just wear out. I want to say like boxer short underwear. I had some pairs, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and I noticed that, and I just get something like Fruit of the Loom, just something you can get at a basic big box retailer, not even a specialty store. Fruit of the Loom. Well, then I noticed, wait a second, this material's thinner than the stuff that I had. So I reached a point where I spent a little extra, unfortunately, but that's the case, to buy underwear that is made of that heavier material that it always used to be made of. I think about clothing, sweatshirts, holes, and how I've got an old, so it's a military garment called a BDU, battle dress uniform, which is basically like the standard issue, not a blouse, but like jacket coat that you would wear as part of your uniform, where it's long sleeve, 5 buttons, 4 pockets, and usually made of a cotton material. Well, I've got one that I bought 30 years ago in high school. And the only thing I've had to do is sew the thread on the buttons gave out, on a few of the buttons gave out over the years. So I had to sew those buttons back in. And then the stitching on one of the pockets was giving out and starting to come undone. So I unraveled. So come on, camera. There we go. So I had to stitch that back up. I may have used the sewing machine. I don't recall. It was years ago. And that's gone through probably a couple hundred washes over the decades. And other than fading, that thing is still holding together. You could say the thing of so much stuff where we've gone from a society that builds things to last to just builds things to make a buck. I mean, you could partly say that this is also influenced by our monetary system, where the value of our currency continues to erode. Where, just to put this in perspective, how much does a dollar or whatever the currency of in your country is, how much does it buy today versus 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? How much did a house cost in those units of currency? How much did a car cost? How much did a person earn in a year? And it's not that, with prices going up, the price of a house, the value of that thing, like housing in the United States has probably gone up 4 or 5 times since the late 70s. And it's not that all of a sudden we have 4 or 5 times more people or 4 or 5 times less houses, or the value of a house has gone up 4 or 5 times over that period of time. It's that the currency has lost 4 to 5 times its purchasing power. And it takes that many more of those units of monetary value to buy the exact same damn thing. And so and as the currency's degraded, that's led to people making choices with a much shorter and shorter perspective on profitability, gain, business ventures, economic activity. Because if the value of something's degrading, what's the point of putting value into it if it's not going to be worth as much down the road? So we've got all these different signs of cultural degradation. Excuse me. And we have to think about, where does this lead? Where does this end? How much worse will it get? And I think, I'd heard someone mention once, I can't remember the book exactly, but they said, essentially, we as, to use a very loose term, spiritual beings, or just, as I would phrase it, multidimensional beings. More than just the flesh and bone. How about I put it like that? Our inner barometer, sort of what guides us to do the right thing, ultimately in the end, that whenever it's kind of like we're kind of hanging with the mothership, like the little fish that swim with a big whale sort of thing. And when we veer off course, all the distortions come into play, and eventually it's sort of like we revert back to the mean to harmonize back with universe and the rhythm of the galaxy, the rhythm of the universe, and kind of go with the flow, so to speak. And I think humanity, in a lot of ways, has engaged in numerous experiments, and we're seeing what these distortions are. Some of the things we've chosen to do are short-term stuff, like the whole woke stuff and the victimhood Olympics, and this idea that there's an oppressor and oppressed, and just that whole silly sideshow of things. And then we've also seen this coming through, I think, with culture and the monetary system and this experiment. You could take it to much an even larger perspective of how we went through the experiment of centralization and how the centralization of things, whether it be military power, governmental power, religious power, production power, supply chains, farming and agriculture, political power, just the centralization as a model that ran its course. Now we're reverting back more towards the mean, which is decentralization, much more decentralized, much more individualized, much more more autonomous units out there. And we're seeing, I think what we're seeing right now is we're reaching the end. The one thing I saw was in this past US election, pragmatism does exist. People's barometers were getting so thrown off by people chasing ideologies and trying to make them work. And then when they keep breaking, we said, enough, enough, done, done. And I think we're reaching these breaking points globally as a people, where we're discovering the things, like in time we're gonna become very aware and understand the pros and cons of social media and have much greater consciousness when we engage with that. We're seeing that with, and I think we're going to see that with everything, with making cheap ass furniture, cheap ass clothing, cheap ass everything, where the quality, it's not going to be about lowest, cheapest, easiest. You fix the money, you fix a lot of things. When we have a more stable currency and we actually have value that doesn't degrade, our paycheck doesn't degrade, what we buy in doesn't degrade monetarily, I think there will be a parallel reversal of values, and the time preference will change to a much longer timeline. And in that sense, you're also going to have a preference for handmade furniture, solid wood. Things may be made by machines, but it's not going to be that particle board crap. Clothing is going to be better, where there'll be a demand for quality because we understand the value of it and the value of the opposite side of the coin, which is all the garbage we've had for years and years and years. And so there's a lot of changes that we are going through, that in the next 5 to 10 years we will go through. I think someone said the difference between 2025 to 2035 will be greater than the difference between 2025 and 2000. And I'm willing to believe that. When I just think about the last 5 years, how we've changed, the last 10 years, how we've changed, just the last 5 years. And then also too, if you subscribe to this, the generational turns, the fourth turning, that we are in a fourth turning where all the chaos happens and all the institutions that got built up over the previous three generations has run its course, has been corrupted and twisted and turned into something that it never was originally meant for. We're going to see a huge teardown. These are going to be very, very, very interesting years. Probably trying in a lot of ways, but we'll be fine. Like a person who's sick or who engages in poor behaviors, turning themselves around to fix themselves and heal themselves, there's going to be a lot of discomfort, but it's a healing process, and we're going to see ourselves through it. And the only question, as I say on other platforms, is it's a question of how badly we're going to punch ourselves in the face during the process. because we are our biggest obstacle to change, and we cause the most problems when it comes to trying to fix things. And it doesn't have to be that way. It can be smooth, but it's not, because we're human and we're self-interested creatures and we're full of drama. Holy crap, are we? You throw in the emotions and it's just, woo! Man, whoa. So we're going to advance as humans do, but we'll be fine. But yeah, I think we've reached the apex of peak degradation, and it's turning around. We have 8.5 billion people, so it's going to take time, because it covers the entirety of humanity. And these things take time because there's a lot of details that need to get turned around. If it were simple and only a few layers deep, it would be like hitting a light switch, but it's not. So it'll take time, but it's going to happen. So, oh my gosh. It probably would have helped to have had the banner down there during this talk. Oh well, so it goes. So I wanted to share that because I think part of the reason that I have the Chronicler's Tale is, telling stories about history in the past, but also making observations on the bigger picture that are not specific to, say, like a political perspective. It's more the human condition and just putting ourselves in perspective. And in this case, the context of our cultural degradation that we have been experiencing and are experiencing, and it's slowly turning around. So now that I can go back to that banner, thanks for listening and tuning in. You can follow the Chronicler's Tale on all the social media platforms listed in the show notes, which I need to add to these live streams. And also, too, I'm starting to make more of content like this and doing commentary and sharing my thoughts. So if you got any comments or you're curious about something else or have questions, throw them in there. I'm open to it. And with that, be well, everyone. Talk to you soon.